On a wild island, where the sea screams against the rocks, a boy was born destined to change the very meaning of glory. At school he was an outsider. He spoke French poorly and didn't have a cent to his name. But within his books he was already conquering the world. While others played, he studied maps. He didn't just want to be a soldier. He wanted to be a legend. Then France exploded. The revolution burned the old world to the ground, leaving a void that only a genius could fill. At Toulon, the world noticed him for the first time. He didn't just use iron, he used mathematics to win wars. But even hearts of stone have a weakness. Napoleon's was named Josephine. They sent him to Italy with an army of beggars. In just a few months, he turned them into giants. His men called him the Little Corporal. Not because he was short, but because he was one of them. He sought glory among the pyramids, telling his soldiers, 40 centuries of history are looking down upon you, but France was dying in chaos. He returned to save it, or to take it. He didn't wait for God to choose him. He chose himself. In 1804, the orphan of Corsica became the emperor of the French. The imperial eagle had taken flight, and Europe trembled at the mere sound of his name. The kings and emperors of the old world united to tear him down, but they didn't realize who they were dealing with. His greatest battle was yet to come, the masterpiece of a genius, Austerlitz. December 1805. Two emperors, Russian and Austrian, believed they had trapped Napoleon, but it was he who had set the trap. Then the miracle happened. The mist cleared and the legendary Sun of Austerlitz rose. In a single lightning strike, the French army broke the hearts of its enemies. The ice shattered and the hopes of kings vanished. By that evening, Napoleon was the master of the continent. He wrote to Josephine, "I have defeated 3 emperors." The entire world was at his feet. He brought more than just cannons. He brought laws. The Napoleonic Code brought equality where once there were only privileges. He placed crowns upon the heads of his brothers. The Bonaparte family had become the new dynasty of Europe, but ambition is a fire that never goes out. And Russia was the final frontier. He gathered 500,000 men, the greatest force seen since the days of the Romans. As he crossed the border, a shiver ran down the spines of his generals. The Russian land was silent. Too silent, he found Moscow in flames. The Russians preferred to burn their own capital rather than surrender it. Then, the true enemy arrived, one that no cannon could strike, the Russian winter. The triumphal march became a struggle for survival. The snow buried the glory of the grand empire. The eagle's wings were broken. The enemies he had once humiliated smelled blood and united for the final blow. They sent him into exile, convinced his story was over. But they did not know that an emperor never surrenders without a final act. Exiled, but not broken. On a moonless night, the eagle left his cage. They sent an army to arrest him. He stood before them and said, "If you wish to kill your emperor, here I am." Not a single shot was fired. France fell at his feet once more in an instant, but the world would not grant him peace. 7 nations united for one last, definitive battle, Waterloo, a field of mud where the fate of Europe would be decided in mere hours. On the other side stood Wellington steady as a rock. Waiting for the impact of the French storm, Napoleon played his final card. The old guard, men who had never known retreat, but time had run out. The mud stalled the cannons, and the arrival of the Prussians signaled the end. For the first time in history, the guard fell back. The imperial dream vanished in the smoke of Waterloo. They took him to Saint Helena, a lonely piece of rock lost in the Atlantic. From there was no escape. He spent his final days fighting his most important battle, the one for memory. In 1821, the heart of the giant stopped beating. His final words were, "France, Army, Josephine." He returned to France years later, not as a prisoner, but as a god of war, to rest beneath the gold of Paris. Every time we walk through a modern city, every time we read a law, he is there. Invisible yet eternal, he was everything, and he was nothing. He was Napoleon, and his story will never end.